we have got to talk about Circe by Madeline Miller. So this was my introduction to the Greek retelling subgenre. I've not read any of these books previously. I'm not sure why, to be honest, because I have an obscene knowledge of classics and it's a subject I've always enjoyed. Maybe I avoided them for so long because I knew that the moment I did read one, I'd want to read them all. And now I'm there. So if you have any great recommendations of Greek retellings, obviously I'm going to have to read all of Madeline Miller's stuff now, like Song of Achilles, going to have to read it. Galatea, going to have to read it. But if there are any other writers like Madeline Miller out there that I'm not aware of, please let me know, because this subgenre is going to become a real obsession of mine, because oh my goodness, Circe was fantastic. It was so good. Especially because what I really appreciate in the introduction is Madeline Miller talks about how Circe is such an underappreciated character. Like in the Odyssey, she's just a means to an end. Like she's there to help Odysseus on his travels. And beyond that, we don't ever really see her again. Like, of course, the stories with Telegonus have sort of been lost to history. We don't know it. We only know the synopsis of what happens afterwards. We never actually have any traces of that text. So I like the way that Madeline Miller sort of fills in the gaps, gives Circe an origin story, and also just gives her a purpose. You know, she doesn't have to be an accessory to a hero's journey. She can have her own heroic journey of self-discovery, and that is awesome. Madeline Miller's style of writing, oh my god, I'm trying to remember the last time I read a writer who was as technically brilliant, because you can still be a writer of entertaining books but not be a objectively talented writer. Like, I love Stephen King, of course I do, but Stephen King is not a brilliant writer on like a technical level. Like, there's nothing, his writing is rarely profound and beautiful, you know what I mean? She was really giving me some like Tolstoy energy. You know how you read like a Tolstoy book and on every page there's at least one line that's so wonderfully profound, so classically beautiful. It's like an iconic quote that you could have like on the wall of any living room, because it's just, it feels like the writer has looked into the meaning of creation and knows it all, because it's so beautiful. Like, there's so much depth, there's layers, and she does this as well. There are lines where I'm like, oh, I need like a 45-minute nap just to process every single dimension of what you've just said, because that is incredible. There's one that stands out to me in particular when it's the last time that Circe is going to see Daedalus, and because she has to go back to her island and he's mortal, so he's going to die, and she compares him to like a constellation that like passes the earth once, and she's grateful that he was in her life. I was like, oh, that's so brilliant. Like, she really gets it. I also wasn't aware that Pasiphae was her sister. So a big chunk of this novel takes place on Crete, of course, because Pasiphae married Minos, and, you know, she creates the Minotaur. It's really cool because I've been to Crete multiple times and I've visited a lot of the cultural heritage sites that are discussed in this book back when they still had people like living there. So, of course, Minos's palace at Knossos, been there, it's fabulous, go see it. Circe walks to Mount Dicte, I've been there. I went into the cave. There's like a cave where Zeus was allegedly born, and it's really cool. So I loved all of that. It was a great sort of deep dive into all of the different locations that you can actually still visit today. I also appreciate that in Madeline Miller's version, Telegonus, so Circe's son with Odysseus, does not end up with Penelope, because in some versions he does, and I find it strange, particularly when Circe ends up with Telemachus, Odysseus' son, and so it's like a double stepmother love partnership. It's very strange. It's like something out of like a weird pornography. So I liked that Circe ends up with Telemachus, but Telegonus forms his own destiny in like setting up the Italian Roman civilization. Meanwhile, Penelope comes like the new witch of Aea. I thought that was a good twist on it. And I liked as well that they dismantled Odysseus's hubris, because a lot of the time in the Odyssey he's meant to be the person we're rooting for, but he can be a bit of a dick. Like, truly, his wife is loyal to him even though she's got all these suitors around her. Meanwhile, he's like sleeping with every nymph whose island he lands on. So I enjoyed that they didn't let Odysseus off the hook. They criticised the sort of fragile masculinity of a Greek hero. I'm so excited for Song of Achilles. I'm going to have to put a good stretch of time between reading this one and reading that one, because if I read all of her books now, I'm not going to have any in the future, and then I'll just have to reread these ones. But yes, Madeline Miller, obsessed. What a gem.